A very good afternoon to all our participants. Good afternoon. I see we have a good number of people already joining. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for taking your time to join this webinar this afternoon. This webinar, the title, as you all know, is Strategic Alliances, the intersection between coaching and serving on a board. So we look forward to learning quite a bit about how to join a board, how to serve in a board. Even as more participants continue to join, welcome to those who are coming in. This webinar is brought to us by CoachLinks and NED Careers. We're going to be hearing a little bit more later about NED Careers. My name is Sophie Dongi. I am the Managing Director at CoachLinks, and I will be your moderator this afternoon. I take this time to welcome you again. We want to start on time, and we look forward to a very fruitful interaction. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A forum, and our guest speaker will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Perhaps even as we continue seeing more participants coming in, probably give them another 30 seconds to 1 minute or so. I know a lot of you might already be coaches at our CoachLinks platform, and we welcome you very much. But if you're new and maybe you're not sure about CoachLinks, or you haven't had a chance to learn a little bit more about us, I am going to just quickly, I'm just going to very quickly just tell you a few things about CoachLinks. So CoachLinks is a community. I don't know if you can see my screen. I'll just run down the slideshow. Thank you. So CoachLinks is a community that brings together coaches, individuals, coach training institutes, and corporates with the vision or the mission, with the mission actually of helping them connect with each other, learn from each other, and grow. So the broader vision for CoachLinks is to transform Africa through coaching. Currently, CoachLinks enjoys membership from different coaches from 12 African countries. So it's not only a Kenyan entity, but it is Africa-wide. The mission and the vision are for the whole of Africa. And because I'm sure most of you are coaches or are interested in coaching or are friends of coaching, we've highlighted just a few benefits that you get by joining the CoachLinks platform as a coach. You enjoy enhanced flexibility, you'll be able to grow your business, you will get a chance to do good through pro bono coaching, you share in research and learning, you'll be able to network with your peers, not only in your country, but in other African countries. And you'll also be able to extend your thought leadership by giving webinars such as this one, or sharing articles and things like that. So I do not want to talk too much about the CoachLinks. I mean, to talk much more because we have a lot to get through this afternoon. And I see that we have a good number of participants. And at this point, I would like to introduce our speaker for the afternoon. She will tell us a little bit more about herself and about what she's going to talk to us about. So I take this chance to graciously welcome Elmarié Porthouse. Elmarié, if you can hear me, I think you can take over from here.
Okay, there we are. You can just see if I can get this lighting a bit better. Let's see how we go. Okay, so I'm Elmarié Porthouse, and I am what shall we call it, the chef, cook and bottle washer here at NED Careers. And there are many reasons why I started this company. But if I can share the screen, if I can share my screen so I can show you why I started this company. Let me just see. Right, there you go. I'm sharing my screen. If everybody can see it. Sophie, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, right. So today's topic that we are discussing is strategic alliances and the intersection between coaching and serving on a board. So as I said, I am the owner of NED Careers. We are based here in Cape Town in South Africa. But I myself have worked in the board search industry since 2011. I started full-time working in that since 2013. And then at the beginning of this year, I realized I've worked with so many board search companies, and I saw that there are still a few, let's call it gaps, that I felt could be filled. And I started NED Careers. Now, if I can just show you, because as coaches, let me first see, most of the people on here this afternoon are coaches. So, Sophie, can we maybe just start with a poll, and then I'll tell a bit more about myself. The first poll, are you able to put that up?
Yes, I have just launched the first poll.
Right. So what type of coach are you? So you can just tell us what type of coach are you, whether you're an executive coach, a life coach, or one of the others. This is exciting. I'm seeing a lot of executive coaches on there, a few life coaches, some financial coaches. Aren't there any health coaches with us this afternoon? Right, let me end this poll. Has everybody had enough time to complete this?
I believe so. 76% of the audience participating.
Right. So I see, and that's usually very representative, that 60% of the attendees today are executive coaches, and then 20% are life coaches, 10% financial, and 10% other types of coaches. So most of you that I'm talking to this afternoon are executive coaches, and that to me is exciting, although this applies to every single type of coach out there. Why am I so excited that it's executive coaches mostly? This applies to executive coaches because these are the coaches who most of the time really struggle to get into the market. Finding new clients as an executive coach is probably the most difficult part of your work. Coaching is easy. Well, let's say easy, but in comparison to your marketing part, to where you get your foot in the door in a company, it is really easy. But getting your foot in the door in the company, that is the hard part. That is the difficult part. And that is one of the reasons that Coach Links, when we spoke and we had this lovely Zoom meeting, and they said, listen, this is something where we can find synergy, because Coach Links works really hard to get coaches out there, to promote a coaching culture everywhere, and to help coaches. Coach Links really assists coaches. Now, I can just, as a disclaimer here, Coach Links does not pay me anything. I don't pay them anything. So I'm not saying this just, you know, I'm not busy marketing them. But honestly, when I spoke to Coach Links and I realized the synergy that there exists between NED Careers, myself as a coach, and Coach Links as a company that really enhances what coaching is about, I really decided, and when they approached me to do this webinar, I said, I have to absolutely do this. So let's get to it. Now, as coaches, we always start with our why, don't we? And as you can see, that is my why. On the left is My oldest daughter, Janice, she's also my assistant within the company. She does all our research for us. She finds all those board vacancies and she picks up everything that I drop. So she's absolutely my right-hand person, not just in the company, but in life. The next one is my middle daughter, Maricel, and on the right, it is Jean-Marie, my baby. And then on the complete right, there is my grandson, David. It's my only grandson. And for you out there who are grandparents, you will understand the importance of a grandchild to you. Now, why do I say that these people are my why when it comes to NED careers? My mission in life is to build a stronger leadership base from a much larger pool of leaders. And that is the reason I started this company. We have got excellent leaders in this world, but so many of you are leaders already. But if you look at the mess the world is in, we've got the problem, well, that's on everybody's lips, is COVID. In South Africa and in so many other countries, we have the problem with corruption. We have problems with global warming. We have problems with economical issues where if every country at this moment have to pay off all their debt, it's simply impossible. It just cannot happen. I read somewhere the other day that just for South Africa, every living person in South Africa, and that now counts for from the newborn baby to the oldest person in the country, will immediately have to give 80,000 rand. And that's a lot of money for most people. If everybody contributed 80,000 rand within that second, we can pay off the debt, but not the full debt. It's the interest on the debt. At this stage, we are not even paying off the interest on the debt of what our country owes. And I'm talking about South Africa now because I know this country and I love this country. But this is the case in most countries. And not only in Africa, it's the case everywhere. And the problem lies with leadership. We need more leaders. I believe that the leaders who are there, obviously we hear a lot about corruption, but I believe that the leaders who are there are trying their best in most cases. But we need more leaders with a broader base of experience, and that is where the problem lies. So in exposing more people, a wider pool of people to board vacancies and to the board search process, with NED Careers, we are trying to help alleviate the problem with leadership so that companies, even governments, have a larger pool to choose from so that the same people don't always get chosen for the same boards. So, let us solve the world's leadership crisis. You will see that I've got that triangle there where the governments are at the top. Then we've got our business leaders and all I wouldn't just say our business leaders, all our organizational leaders. That's not non-government businesses, that's not for profits, it's your private business, your listed business, everyone. And then we've got your working class. Now, most of us are either working class or business leaders, most of us on this call today. And we are supposed, if you look at this triangle, we are supposed to form the biggest part of this triangle. Unfortunately, when we look strategically at how our countries are composed, shall I say, the unemployed masses at this stage make up the bulk of our communities. It is so in South Africa, and it is that way. I've spoken to so many people over the last few months, and this is the case everywhere, where the unemployed masses make up at least half of that triangle. So if we can, by creating a bigger group of leaders, to be chosen, then that can help to lift up those unemployed masses, because each one of you have ideas for job creation. Each one of you have ideas how we can alleviate poverty. And it is those ideas that boards need to know of, so that those strategies can be implemented on a business level, and so that those strategies can just run through and flow through to the different companies. And in that way, we'll uplift not only our own countries, not only the company, not only the country, but the world. So, Sophie, can you quickly just throw up the next poll for me?
Yes, sure.
I'll have a quick drink of water while you do that, and everybody answers the next poll. Right, the second poll, I would like to know, how would you define yourself? If you had to describe yourself as a board member, or whether you are a board member or not, please just read through those and describe how would you define yourself at this stage. Wow, that's interesting. I'll give a few more seconds for those to come in. Right, and I'm going to close it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, let's end this poll. Okay, and if we look at the results, then 24% are currently of attendees today are currently serving on boards. Let me share these results. I hope you can see it. And what is really exciting to me is those who say, I am actively looking for a board role, because that is what we need. We need people to actively look for board roles. And I was amazed when I realized that there are people who do not realize that you have to look for a board role. There are people who thought, or who still think, that you need to be tapped on the shoulder by a headhunter, by a CEO, by a current board member. You need to be tapped on the shoulder to be able to serve on a board. And there are cases where that will happen to you, but you might be an excellent leader with so much to offer a board, but they don't know about you. And this is where we are going to fill in that gap today. Now, I see there are a few who say that I don't know enough about board service to make a decision. So let me quickly tell you just a little bit. I'm just going to stop sharing the poll. Right. Let me just quickly tell you a little bit. When a company is set up, then the leadership of the company, and this is not only companies, this counts for not-for-profit organizations as well. The leadership of these organizations are mostly made up of executive leaders. Being an executive leader means you work within the company. So this is what we would call your C-suite, your CEOs, your CFOs, your CSOs, and all the rest. There are so many CEOs nowadays that one struggle to count. But companies need more than just the knowledge base within it. And most companies, as well as your not-for-profit organizations, and also your profit-for-purpose organizations. I see it says my internet connection is a bit unstable. I hope that I'm not cutting out too much. But they need, these companies, these organizations, they need more knowledge than is just offered within the company. And therefore, they go outside the company. Some do hire consultants, but the consultant also has a little bit of knowledge or has knowledge in a specific niche area, and they will only work with this company for a very limited period of time. So companies appoint boards to help to run them, to help make the plans, to help come up with strategies, and to make everything within the company better and to see the company grow. So that is why companies and organizations will appoint non-executive members. And that is where NED comes from. It's non-executive directors. So not executive director is a person who serves on a board. So in a sense, they work for the company, but this is not a day-to-day, every day they go into an office and work for this company. They will attend board meetings, they'll have readings beforehand, and everybody will get together at a certain. It's a lot more possibilities for all of us, but a lot of these board meetings are starting to happen online the way we are meeting today, and on Zoom meetings and all the other platforms, and they discuss what are the problems, the way they contribute to the development. And people who don't work within the company, who sit on the board, sometimes have a different view of the company. It's like having a bird's eye view, and you can see the problems coming. Plus you bring your knowledge and your expertise to this board. Now, coach's biggest problem, and this is every single coach that I talk to, is we know what to do as a coach, but
looks like we have lost Elmarié. Just give her a few seconds to come right back. My apologies for that.
I'm just, right, am I back? Let's hope. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen with you again. So the biggest problem that I see coaches having is getting business. And so much more so for executive coaches, because what happens is that we do try to enter the coaching market, and we contact companies, and they sit there, and first of all, most of these companies do not have a coaching culture, but on the other hand, they also have 100 other coaches to choose from. So they don't even consider starting coaching within the company. Those companies who already have coaches on board, they keep the same coach and they just continue with that. So the problem lies with what happens if you as a new coach and as an executive coach go to a big company or even a small organization and you try to enter as a coach. You have to know someone on the inside, and they have to get you past the leadership team to give permission for you to become a coach on their company. And if that doesn't happen, there's a big problem. So unfortunately, it seems like I'm having a problem with these slides.
Elmarié, we'll try to share the slides for you.
Okay, if you are able, Sophie, but I'm just going to continue for now, yes. Okay? Yes. So, is a board career the right choice for you? And unfortunately, you'll have to look at me now and not the slides for now. Is a board career the right choice for you? So, anyone can sit on a board, but the question is, should they? So, it's one thing to sit on a board, and the question is, sorry, these things are just messing with me. I don't like technology at all. So anyone can sit on a board, but the question is, should you sit on a board? So what we do is we look at the different types of board roles there are, because there are many types of board roles. And unfortunately, because I was off screen for quite some time, I won't have time to run through all of those. But should you serve on a board? And I always caution people that I talk to, and I tell them there are risks to sitting on a board. Your risks can be reputational, professional, financial, and personal. We hear a lot about boards going awry and things just go completely wrong. And when the company goes under, board members are called forth, and you run that reputational risk that in the future, if you sat on the board of ABC and things went wrong there, in future, if you apply for whether it's a board role, whether it's an executive role, you will be asked about that problem that came up there. So your reputation might suffer if you serve on a board and something goes wrong. If you are prepared to deal with that, to answer the questions, then that should be fine. Then there's also a professional risk. You might get involved with a board and your own company then says, listen, but there's a problem here. Even when companies beforehand gave permission for you to get involved with the board, I have seen cases where problems do occur, and then your company says, listen, it's time for you to choose between that board and your work with us. It does not happen often, but it does happen. The financial risk, when certain things happen, directors can actually be charged and you can get a fine, or you have to in some way pay financially for what's happened. Also, if you have an unpaid board role and you have travel expenses, you have to fly maybe to a different country to observe the board or to attend meetings, that at least at this stage is becoming less. And then we've got what we call the value add directors. And now I'm not talking about an organization, a not-for-profit that asks you to be a member so that you can become a board member. Then you pay a small membership fee, and maybe they have this idea that their board only comes from their members. I've worked with some organizations like that recently. Those are not the organizations I refer to. I'm talking about those companies that come to you, and usually it's a startup that will do this, and to them it's a way of raising money instead of really looking for board members. So they'll tell you, listen, if you pay $100,000, or it can be any sum, usually it starts around $50,000 and upwards, to become a board member. It should not happen. If that happens, know that you are not really a board member. You are now paying for that board seat. You are actually a stakeholder in the company in a different sense. And then your personal risk. You need to know that if you're a married person, if you've got a husband or a wife, if you've got children, you need to know that your board work is not going to take so much of your time that it takes you away from your family, that you lose friends maybe because of it. So you really need to contemplate, are you up to the risks? Now the rewards, I'm going to run through them very quickly. You get to know the world of governance, you develop bigger and better leadership skills, you build experience. Board experience is something that no one can ever take away from you. You build relevant connections, and these connections is something that is invaluable to anyone sitting on a board. And then you can also earn an income. Most board roles will at least pay your expenses. We often advertise even on our website, we often advertise board roles where you can earn an income, you get paid a stipend. I've seen a board role not too long ago that was offered in the UK, where it was for a chairperson, and the monthly or the yearly payment was £50,000. So for about 8 hours of board work per month, that's not too bad. I could do with that kind of money. Now, this is what counts for everybody. But then I also added, and the biggest reward of all. Now, as a coach, the reward you get is that it opens up the company for you to help develop a culture of coaching. So once you are able to help develop a culture of coaching within a company, this will give you the opportunity yourself to be able to become a coach within this company. This is one way of, I can almost say literally kicking down the door to coaching. And you can yourself be the executive coach within the company, or you can at least open doors for other coaches to work within the company, whether it's an executive coach, a life coach, because a lot of companies even appoint life coaches to come and work within the company and work with the employers or the employees. Now, do you have the personality to serve on a board? And the strange thing is, when you look at the type of personality you need to serve on a board, then in so many ways, it is similar to our core competencies. Now, are you a listener? As a coach, you always have to be a listener. You need to be actively listening to every word that your client says. So as a coach, you are already trained to listen. What do your interpersonal skills look like? Again, as a coach, you need to be able to have interpersonal skills. If you are a very aggressive person, your clients are not going to easily be happy with you. They are not going to trust you. They are not going to want to engage with you. So your interpersonal skills as a coach are very similar to what your interpersonal skills as a board member would look like. And then, are you comfortable with different perspectives? I've sat in coaching sessions where my client will say something and then I'm like, that's not how I would approach it. But as a coach, we know you need to keep quiet. This is your client's time. So you've already developed that skill to be comfortable with different approaches, and you will need that as a board member as well. And then how do you handle disagreement? When you have a disagreement with a client, do you just say, no, I don't agree with what you said. It's A, it's not B. You don't do that. Now, on a board, you need to be able to handle disagreements, because otherwise you're going to be plucking each other by the tie across the table, and nobody wants that to happen. And will you ask the obvious questions? Sometimes when something is discussed on a board, there's that one obvious question that nobody wants to ask. As a coach, we are prepared and we are so comfortable with asking the questions that other people don't want to ask. And that is what is important. And then, what are you passionate about? Now, we are coaches and we are passionate about what we do. Now, the chairs of companies and of organizations look for people who are passionate about what the company does. So when I go through our coaching course, I help people find that passion so that you can see that your passion and the organization you apply to, that those two align. Because if you're not passionate about what the organization does, you're not going to be a very effective board member. Now, where should you start? Some people say you need to get a qualification like from the Institute of Directors, the Australian Institute of Directors, Governance Institute. Others say just jump in and start on a not-for-profit board. I deal with a lot of board vacancies. Very few of them really insist on you having previous board experience or having definitive qualification for a board. So you can decide, but that is something that I usually discuss with board members further or prospective board members. There are different ways that board appointments are being made. It's personal connections. More than 60% of board appointments worldwide are made via personal connections. Then non-executive advertisements. We, on our NED Careers website, we have advertisements for board members. We don't charge for it, and we don't charge the companies to advertise with us, and we do not charge anyone to view these, because I know there are companies who do that, who will hide the vacancies behind a paywall. So you're always welcome to go onto the NED Careers website, have a look at the vacancies that are available, click through and apply for them. And then the other one is recruiters. And that's how many board members, especially across Africa, I see the tendency is that headhunters and recruiters come and tap you on the shoulder and they'll ask you, but you need to first be a known concept to them. They need to know you before that can happen. And part of what I do is I teach people how to approach recruiters so that you become a known quantity to them. And then also you can approach organizations directly. That to me is a very, very effective way of doing it. Now, the first thing you need to do is to brand yourself as a non-executive director. At this stage, your branding will be as a coach. So you're not going to lose your identity as a coach. You need to learn how to let those two run in conjunction with each other. And the reason you need to brand yourself as a non-executive director, if people do not know that you want a board role, nobody's ever going to ask you to take a board role. Malcolm Gladwell talks in his book Tipping Point, he talks about the fundamental attribution error. And that basically means that the moment someone meets you, they peg you in a certain little box. Or if I know you as my milkman, then I'm also going to see you as I'm always going to see you as my milkman. But if you tell me, or if I in some way find out that you are also a prospective board member, you would like to sit on a board, then that clicks with me and I know, listen, but there's a board role there, or on that side there's a board role, and I know to introduce you to those people. Your board profile is something that you need to write out. It is part of your branding. You are going to need that for your elevator pitch. You're going to need that for your board CV. It also makes up part of your LinkedIn profile because so many board members nowadays are found via LinkedIn. You will put it on your personal website and anywhere else. If you've got a bus bench that you want to advertise yourself on as a board member, you need to put your board profile on there. Now, the first question you need to ask yourself when you choose a board to apply to is, why should I be appointed to this board? Have a good look at yourself and have a good look at the company or the organization, and that will give you an idea of why you need to be appointed to this specific board. The documents you will need to have ready, and I'm closing off with this now. The documents you will need to have ready is your board CV, your cover letter, your supporting statement, and your LinkedIn profile. And I'm going to tell you a little bit later, Sophie has a few things to come in with here, but I'll tell you a little bit later more about how I can help you with this. And Sophie, are there any questions?
Thank you, Elmarié. Thank you to our attendees for bearing with us during that hitch, but I think Elmarié jumped right into it, and I believe we've all learned quite a bit about serving in board. We do have a question from Dalpat. He would like to know, this is something you have covered, but you can probably give him a recap. He would like to know what qualifications are required to be on a board.
This differs. It depends on what board you apply to. And this is absolutely, that's why I said you need to look at yourself and you need to look at the actual company or the organization you want to apply for. You can start with a board role. I've had board roles that were advertised where huge companies were looking for community members. So this company was working in a community where they brought the whole leadership in from outside this community. And the organization had to, about 2 years in, they realized they're not making it because they do not have any contact with the community. So they appointed 2 members from the community itself, and they needed 0 qualifications. The one was a housewife with 4 kids. She hadn't worked in almost 16 years outside of her house, and they appointed her to their board. And the other one was the manager of a fuel station in this town. And they appointed him as a community member as well. And they contributed to these boards so much. Now, the skills and the qualifications boards mostly look for are obviously your previous board experience, if you have any, but that is not a problem if this will be your first board role. They do tend to want people with legal expertise, any kind of bookkeeping, any kind of financial background is always good. And then if you've got experience in the sector that this board operates in, that also helps. So boards are looking for diversity. So you need to look at yourself, and diversity goes so much wider than race, creed, gender, all of that. If you've got any kind of skill that you can just, I almost want to say twist, so that it will fit in with this board, you need to show how you can fill in any gaps that the board has. So it is always good to have qualifications, but do not think that because you were just a school leaver, you only have well, in South Africa, we call it a matric certificate, that you cannot be a board member. Anybody can be a board member, but you need to check your expectations. You cannot expect to become the chairperson for the biggest Fortune 500 company if you were just a school leaver. So apply for board roles, but check your expectations and keep that under control, if that answers the question for you.
Thank you for that answer. I believe you have answered the question. We'll just take one more question, and before we move to a different session so that we can wind up in good time. A second question from Sharon is, I am a life and business coach. Would I be able to sit on a board? I think you may have mentioned, but maybe you can just reiterate. I am a life and business coach. Would I be able to sit on a board?
Oh, you're cutting out a bit. Can you just repeat that, please?
The question is, I am a life and business coach. Would I be able to sit on a board?
I'm seeing some questions here. If I can just quickly run through some answers here. I just don't want to take other people's time. I'm seeing we're going to run out of time. I see here someone asked, do you need to have fidelity insurance in your personal capacity? There are some boards that do require that, but that is not always the case. If you do work on a big company board where big legal matters are being dealt with, then I would in some cases say do look into getting some fidelity insurance, but that does differ from board to board. And then how do I get in touch with Elmarié? Okay, you can always email me at elmarié@nedcareers.com, or you can just look for me on LinkedIn. I'm literally the only Elmarié Porthouse in the world. So if you look for Elmarié Porthouse, then you will find me. Retired persons, 65 plus, are they considered? Absolutely. In fact, the oldest board member I helped to get the board role was 78 years old at this stage. The thing is, boards do like to have people with worlds of experience. So most boards, as much as they are starting to appoint younger people, most boards will definitely look at having at least one member who's usually someone who's already retired, because they do have that expertise. And then public sector in SA risks factors to consider before accepting such roles. Yes, you always need to, and that's part of what I do in my training, is to help you gauge whether the risks on this board is too big for you to take on, because you should not always say yes to a board role. Sometimes the risks are simply too big and you need to step away. And unfortunately, you'll have to say no. It cannot always be a yes. I hope I answered most of those questions.
I think so. Thank you, Elmarié. We want to take a minute and do something a little different. At this juncture, I would like to call on a coach who is also an accomplished board member here in Kenya, just to share her reflections based on what Elmarié has spoken about. So I would like to invite Rose Ogega. I don't know if you can hear me, Rose. I want to give you 1 or 2 minutes to just share your reflections.
So good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Elmarié, for such an interesting presentation. I wish I'd met you before I joined boards, because then I would have entered into those boards with some knowledge. But it's never too late, and thank you for sharing what you've shared. I have sat in boards for about 2 decades now, and different boards. And I had people asking, where do you start? I'll tell you where I started. Maybe that will help. My first board was a school board. I was invited into a girls' boarding school to be a board member. It was quite interesting, but very trying, because they would call me in the middle of the night to say the girls are on strike, so you need to come and talk to them. But having said that, I have served in different roles. One thing I fully agree with Elmarié is that boards are complex. Boards are extremely complex because they are dealing with resolving issues and problems. And because of that, boards look very glamorous from outside. They do look very glamorous. But when you go in there, and I like the fact that she shared the potential risks that are associated with board roles. It is important for all of us, as we consider joining boards, to think very deeply around, why do we want to join those boards? What then do you bring to the board? So that speaks to your reason, your purpose of joining, and the value proposition that you carry with yourself. So as you think about the roles that you are considering, and in particular the boards, I will urge all of us to start developing ourselves. And I find that the skill set that we have as coaches, it actually, in a very interesting way, does develop you as a person. For you to qualify as a coach, either an executive coach or a life coach, you're working with people. And a lot of decisions that we make at the board level touch on people. You develop skills like powerful questioning, which are critical at the board level. So I see that as when I look at my life, I was a board member before I became a coach. So I see my career and my ability to interrogate the agendas of the board to have improved since I became a coach. So now that we are coaches, it's much easier for you to build and brand yourself in such a way that you can easily get yourself into a board role. Now, in terms of how do we even get to be known that we exist and therefore to be considered for board roles? Very important that you become visible, and Elmarié spoke to it. It's very important that you, first of all, develop your own personal value. You have to be a person of value, because you are not going to be there just to occupy a seat. You are going to contribute. So you need to work on yourself. And as you sit in the board, you're then supposed to ensure that you contribute from that perspective. And as you develop yourself, you need to let people know that you are interested in sitting in a board role. So your personal branding is so key. It is so key. Additional comments that I want to make is that if you look at our local, for those who are in Kenya, if we look at the local situation, there are many of us who are in board roles. network with us. Reach out to us and say, okay, I'm interested. Send CVs to us, because sometimes opportunities actually tend to come to those who already sit in boards. So talk to us and show us what it is that you have so that we can bear that in mind as we engage in boards. Finally, the final comment that I want to make, I know I just was asked to share my own reflections. The final comment that I want to make is that board roles are not for faint-hearted. There are many issues that you will need to be called upon to make decisions. Sometimes there are ethical dilemmas that you will need to address. Sometimes there are conflicts that you will need to address. Sometimes there will be situations when your own personal values are challenged. So the board roles, in addition to the fact that there are risks, there are reputational risks, the board roles are really, from where I sit, they are not for faint-hearted. So you need to develop courage. And I know that coaches are courageous human beings. Coaches are courageous human beings. And if many of us as coaches actually sat in different boards, I totally do agree with Elmarié that we can create the coaching culture and open our market for ourselves. A number of institutions, and especially the ones I have sat in, I cannot be a coach when I'm sitting in the board. But when you leave that organization, maybe you've served your 2 terms and you have left, then you already have the networks that you can ride on, and you can go back to them and say, now I can come back and coach the leadership or coach the board as that. I want just to pause there. Sophie, I know you gave me 2 minutes. I think I've exceeded that. I was just so carried along with the conversation.
Thank you very much, Rose. I think in future we should have a full webinar so that you can share your experiences with us about boards. All right, so I want to go back to Elmarié. We are going to, I hope to wind up in the next 5 minutes or less. I see we are already 5 minutes over time. I thank you for your patience. I want to just go quickly to Elmarié. I know there's something you wanted to show us, Elmarié, and I don't know if you'll be able to. So I'm going to share my page. I know you wanted to talk about this slide. So if you can go ahead, take about a minute or so that we can wind up.
Now, we do have our 4-week program that we offer to anyone who wants to become a board member, and we've really had some people from every generation enroll here. It's a short course. It takes 4 weeks, and there's a 90-minute to 2-hour session every week, and every week we run through something that has to do with the next step in your board search process, because most people, even those who have qualifications from places like the IOD, the Institute of Directors, or one of the other reputable places, they have this qualification, but they do not know how to get onto a board. They know how to serve on a board, but to get onto a board. And Rose made a few very good suggestions there, like, please contact board members, but you need to be prepared. So in the first week, we just deal with who am I and what type of board should I apply to. Here you start researching possible board roles. Then the next week we set up your board, your brand, and write your personal board profile with you. This is happening within the session because these are both training and coaching sessions. There's a bit of training involved, and then we switch over to the coaching part, and you start doing the work just like we always expect our clients to do. So the next one, we create with you your board CV and all your other documents that I read through earlier, your supporting statement, your cover letter. We help you to create all those documents that you need, as well as your online profiles, obviously. And at this stage, you will start applying to those boards that you decided on in the first week, and maybe some other boards that you decided on at that stage. And then in the last week, we do interview techniques, because by now you will have been contacted by some of these companies that you approach, some of these organizations, to come in for a board interview. And we literally work through a list of 60 possible interview questions, and people have reported back to me that they sat in these interviews and every single question they were asked came from that list. So we prepare you in how to effectively answer every single one of those questions. And we tell you what to do when you do get the board role, because once you are offered the board role, there is some due diligence that you need to do before making your final decision, because you are always still allowed to say no. And then if you do not get the board role, there are some steps that you can take to make it that much easier for you next time. So this is a 4-week course. And like I said, it's about 2 hours every week. After the session, I keep the lines open so that the attendees can talk to one another. It isn't a webinar like this one. It is a Zoom call, so everybody can see each other, and great bonds are built there. And I'm sure those bonds will still run into the future. Now, this course of mine usually costs a member of the public $349. They tell me it's too cheap because other companies do present similar courses, although it doesn't go as deep as this one. It doesn't walk you through, it isn't coaching courses, it's simply training. With these walk you through, you will walk out with all your documents you need, everything. I've knocked down that price to $119 US. Now, Sophie will email you a link tomorrow. Unfortunately, I couldn't get everything set up in time, because when I decided, okay, I'm going to do this specifically for the coaches. So please, that link that she shares with you is just for coaches. I do not want to work with anyone else on those specific calls, because my other coaching calls are on a Tuesday, the similar course, but that's open to anyone, and that's the one for $349. This one is $119. These groups are small, so space is limited. I do not open it up to 100 people. The biggest group I've had until now was 11 people, and that was it. So because I want to keep it small so that everybody gets the best opportunity to ask their questions. So please, once Sophie sends you that link is for you if you are interested to sign up. That link is not available as a public link on the website. Although you will be directed to the website, you won't be able to reach it via our services page. Or you can email me and I will send you the link if you would like to sign up. I plan on starting this course on the 6th of October, and if necessary, I'll have one running in November as well. After the 4 weeks, I also have an hour-long one-on-one Zoom call with every attendee. That is just me and that person, so that we can run through all of it. So I would love to say thank you to everyone. I'm so sorry. I want to apologize for the technical difficulties that I've had on my side. And I must say this was one of my favorite webinars to do. I love the Coach Links team. And for everyone who's offered up their time, thank you so much. And I hope to see you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Sophie,
much.
Up to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elmarié. Thank you for the webinar, for the information. Thank you for the preparation that you have done to make this possible, and for answering as many questions as possible. I know our participants still have more questions, and we will give them your contact so that if someone wants to write to you or reach out to you via LinkedIn, they can be able to do that. We also want to say a special thank you to Rose Omega for taking time to share your reflections about boards, and I'm sure our participants learned a lot. And then I want to thank all of you for taking your time in the middle of a Wednesday afternoon to listen in on this seminar, on this webinar. Obviously, you're interested in coaching, and Elmarié has offered a discounted rate for her course to prepare you on how to apply for board roles. So if you're interested, we're going to be sending that link to all of you after this. just so that you can, think about what to do next. We are also we apologize again for the technical hitch, but we are going to share Elmarie's slides with all of you immediately after this. And finally, last but not least, I want to thank the coaching team that worked in the background to make this possible. So we are already 10 minutes over the time. We want to stop here. We want to thank you very much again, everyone. And we will be sending emails, and we hope that you will join us. We hope to have a webinar every month on different topics, just invite a different coach to talk about something different. We hope that you'll join us in the next time. So thank you again, and goodbye, everyone, and have a good evening.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.